It's a common misconception that living a minimal or frugal lifestyle can be restrictive. My own experience couldn't be further from the truth. This video is going to show how I intentionally spend money to enrich my slow life. Good morning everybody and welcome back to my channel. I thought this week we could continue our conversation a little bit more about money because I know it's something that is always relevant for all of us and something I enjoy talking about and sharing my experience. But I wanted to do it a little bit differently this time. I actually wanted to talk about how I spend money rather than save money as I live a more minimal lifestyle. So let's get into it. One of the things that minimalism has taught me is how to reduce impulse spending, because I think that kind of spending tends to be less intentional. A lot of the time, at least I found that I ended up getting things I didn't even really want, but I just felt that I really needed it at the time, ended up wasting the money. So now I think a lot of my ways that I spend money are a lot more intentional because of the preparation I put into it. So I tend to take quite a long time thinking about something before I buy it, and I have strategies in place. So one of those is to have buying lists. So I usually spread these out different time scales, but at the beginning of each year when I'm planning my year, I tend to write down any costs that I think might be coming up. I don't write down every single little thing, but things that are maybe different to my everyday purchases. So that can be maybe things that are a bit of higher cost, any technology I might need, or it could be looking at my wardrobe, anything else I want to add to my wardrobe, and when I want to shop that, a lot of the time I tend to shop for my wardrobe seasonally, so I break that up through the year. And any other things, so if there's any holiday or experience I've got coming up, I look and see what's coming up basically, and then I make a list so I can do that over the year, and I also do that on a monthly basis. And then finally, this thinking process means that I can really spend time thinking about whether I actually need something new or whether I feel like the external pressure is saying I need to have this thing in my life. And a lot of the time I found, when I really think about it, I find that I don't tend to buy a lot of things, and a lot of the time I can also get by with alternatives, or a great thing to do is to borrow. You know, we're so used to just buying things because we can. It's so quick to do it online now. You can get anything you want from Amazon and get it the next day. But a lot of these things I don't want all the time. So examples of things I borrow are like accessories for my wardrobe. So I've borrowed, you know, nice bags if I'm going to like more of a dressed up event that I don't have anything appropriate from friends, or like some hair clips. I borrowed some hair clips once. I borrow books all the time from the library and from my friends, and it's just a great thing to think about and stops you spending if you don't really need to. I've actually just listed 2 new products on my Etsy store, all to do with living a more frugal life. So the first one is a wee ebook, and that's just a place where I've put my tips and tricks in how I've managed to slow down my spending, how I've managed to set a budget that I can actually stick to, increase my income, but also crucially reduce my outgoings. And then the other product is another Notion template. You guys all know that I love Notion. I think it's a fantastic planning tool, and I sell other Notion templates on my store that I know some of you have enjoyed using. So on this template, it's kind of a one-stop shop to do all of your financial planning and thinking. So it's somewhere where you can set a budget, you can track your spending, it's somewhere where you can list your intentions and what's important to you when it comes to spending and managing your money. I've designed these Notion planners so that they're really easy to use even if you've not used Notion before, and there is a full video tutorial that comes with every single planner, and I did do a video specifically looking around some Notion planners, so I'll link that down below in case that's interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed creating these products, and it's inspired by how I've learned to live more frugally. It's meant that we've been able to, you know, build this tiny home. I've been able to drop to working part-time hours and also setting up my own creative career. So I'll add the links to these products in my description below, and thank you very much for everyone that has supported my shop. Another really important thing to me when it comes to spending my money is making sure that I'm making purchases that are in line with my values. So this means that I'm doing a little bit of research and spending a bit more time to make sure that I'm buying from companies that align with things that are important to me. So obviously that includes making sure that they're not harmful to the planet, to animals, to people, and just shopping in a more ethical way, and it's far more rewarding to do that. I think it can be tricky to find brands that are genuinely trying to do things in a more sustainable and ethical fashion. And I think it's very useful to have some go-to brands. So I have like a personal brand directory that I use, and that means I'm comfortable and confident in shopping from them. So that's for all sorts of things. So I have brand directories for like my wardrobe and clothing, beauty items, home appliances, everything like that, and it just makes the process far easier. I also love shopping secondhand. You guys have seen me going to charity shops all the time. I think it's a fantastic, more environmental way to shop, and it's also obviously saves you a little bit of money. So I like going to local charity shops around here. I pick up a lot of my books that way, and I also like to shop secondhand online. So I really get a lot of my wardrobe, probably at least half my wardrobe, using apps like Vinted or Depop, and I think it's great because you have such a range there. You know, it's obviously a bigger range than you'd find in just a charity shop, and to make the process easier, again, I go in and search brands that I know are going to be high quality items, and I know that are going to last a little bit longer, and maybe if I've shopped from those brands before, I can be sure that it suits me, I know what size suits me, and yeah, it's a really, really fun way, and it takes a bit longer, but again, it's well worth it. I also like to support small businesses. Again, that can be locally around here. I love going into gift shops, and even if I'm only buying something small, even if I'm only buying a card, for instance, for a friend's birthday, I think all those little purchases really do matter to these people. And also online, you know, again, Etsy is my go-to for pretty much everything, either just buying for myself or buying friend things for gifts. So yeah, I think being clear of your values before you spend money means you probably are going to spend less needlessly, and again, it feels a lot better when you're doing that. What I think is really important to recognise, and something I've learned through my more minimalist journey, is there's no magic number. So I think when I first started the decluttering process, I got quite into it, and I think that's quite common. You know, you get a thrill from opening up your space and getting rid of things that really aren't adding any value to your life. And I remember googling things like what's the perfect number of items to have in your wardrobe and things like that, which on reflection doesn't make any sense because everybody is completely different. So people might be different on how many things they want, what types of things they want, how they want to spend their money. So there's certain things that I like to spend more money on, and because I do live more minimally and buy less generally, that means I can spend more money on most things. But there's certain things, like, unless I'm getting them second hand, obviously my wardrobe, I really like spending money on items that are going to last. I think if you'll get used to like high quality items, it's actually much harder to go back to shopping from fast fashion now. You know, even when I'm shopping second hand, I rarely, like I said, pick up anything that's from fast fashion because it just doesn't feel good on me, it doesn't make me feel good, and it's not worth it because in the long run it's just going to wear out. I've also talked a little bit recently about beauty, so talked about makeup and getting makeup from the brand Merit, and again, they're a little bit more expensive, but having now worn that makeup, I've realised actually it's so much better. You know, it's so much better on my skin. I still feel so much more confident in it. And even things like home appliances. So at the beginning of the year, I really wanted to get a good blender because I'd always had kind of cheaper blenders, and it meant that I got put off from making smoothies because I really wanted to make green smoothies, but they always had like bits of spinach floating in them, and I was like, that's just not not that appealing. So I did get a Nutrivilla, and I've used it pretty much every single day since, and it's been one of the best buys I've made this year. I've also come to realise what really sparks joy for me, and overall I do prioritise experience over things. I think it's really important to recognise that, because I've noticed that no matter how thrilling it is to get something new, that thrill always wears off. You know, it doesn't stick around, and I think it's so easy to fall into the trap of just keep buying new things to get that thrill. It's very addictive, we all fall into it. But it's just not worth it. But there's also certain things that I know over a longer term do add value for me, and things I really like having more than is completely essential. So that's things like mugs. We all know I love having a lot of mugs. My partner makes fun of me a little bit because he's like, ooh, not very minimal having I don't know, 9 or 10 mugs, then you probably only need a couple. But I love getting them because for me it's like a little treat, and it's something that I love, finding beautiful handmade mugs and supporting local potters that way. Books is another one. Surprisingly though, I think my book collection is fairly small because I tend to get, like I said before, most of them from the library, borrow from friends, or I tend to, if it's just a novel I've read and picked up in a charity shop, redonate it. But I do hang on to a few, so I hang on to those that I either will want to read or reference again, or maybe there's some that I just think are beautiful copies. And I love getting old books now. That's becoming my thing. I really am. Every time I go to a charity shop, I check for any lovely old editions because I just think they're special, and they do make me happy. And I think that's okay. You know, don't ever feel like you should have a certain number of whatever. You know, or works best for you. You know how to manage your own money in a way that makes you happy. So I hope you enjoyed and found this video somewhat useful, and yeah, as always, I'm happy and keen to learn from you guys, so please do share your thoughts below about things that you like to spend money on, how you shop more intentionally, or any tips and tricks you have, because I'm sure myself and the rest of the community would love to read them. But I think that's it for me. I'll drop links, like I said, to those Etsy products below if you do want to check them out, and thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you next week.